Hello and welcome back. So we're going to continue talking about probability, and this is the next page on the foldables for my students in my classroom. And what we're talking about today is specifically how to find probability. So in the previous video and or a couple days ago, when we started talking about this, one of the major things that we were discussing, and the first way we presented it, was with a six-sided die or a standard number cube. Okay, see, they're going to try to trick you up with all of these fancy words. So let's go on ahead and we'll draw our little cube. And we'll put the dots on it. There's a 1, a 2, and a 4. Funny thing about a dice, did you know that the opposite sides always equal 7? So the side opposite this 2 is a 5, the side opposite this 4 is a 3, and the side opposite the 1 is the 6. I don't know why they made them that way, but I know that they always equal 7. Regardless, so we're trying to divine P of event, the probability of an event, okay? Well, when we started looking at this, we said that we wanted to know, because we were comparing them to fractions, and so we started with a fraction format, and we asked, how many total sides are there? Because in a denominator, if I had a shape, right, I'd be how many pieces of the pie there were. So there's 6 sides on this number cube. So we made the connection, okay? So it makes sense to have 6 pieces because there's 6 total pieces of this puzzle, right? And then we said, let's come up with some silly thing for the top. How many sides have a 1? Well, only one side has a 1. Or let me rephrase that. Only one side is 1. So then we put the 1 on the top. Well, let's define what we actually said, okay? So the top number, this 1 right here, what are we saying? We're saying how many times is the event true? So P of event is going to be how many times the event is true. And now we're building it as a fraction, and it's going over, right? Over, and then what is the 6? Well, the 6 is saying there's 6 total sides, so we're saying how many possibilities there are. I'm going to use less words and just say total possibilities. Possibilities. I saw somebody stare at this word for a little while, and there's a lot of eyes in it, and they pointed that out to me, and now that I see it, it does look weird, and I'm wondering if I misspelled it. If I misspelled it, let me know in the comments. I'm a math teacher, not a spelling teacher. So let's look at these and let's go on. Now, the first step is always going to be for us to write this in a fraction. So I'm just going to go on ahead and put the fraction bars there. Boom, 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 boom. All right, now I don't have to worry about changing back to that color. In the first one, it's asking, what is the probability of landing on an even number on the spinner below? Well, let's look. What are the total number of options for this spinner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 different ways the arrow could land. And now we want to know an even number. Okay, so the possible ways this is true is it lands on an even number. 1, no. 2 is an even number. 4 is an even number. 6 is an even number. And 8 is an even number. Okay, so we're going to put a 4 on top. 4 over 8. Now, most of my students made this jump just automatically, and they would tell me 50%, but let's walk through that a little bit slower. 4 over 8, I know that I can reduce this. I can divide the top and bottom by 4. That's going to give me 1 over 2. And this is where you really make that jump. You start thinking about money, right? Because percent is per 100, pennies are per 100. So pennies and dollars, they kind of make sense with percent. 1/2 a dollar is 50 cents. So 50 cents, 50%. and we've got our solution. We know that 1/2 is the same thing as 50%. And that's just kind of an accepted, okay, common knowledge thing. Now let's look at a different one, okay? And this is number two. Number two. Look, when I was growing up, no, I had a computer in the house. The people writing the tests for your standardized test, they tend to be older than me. So most of them grew up, they did not have a computer in the house. If they wanted to play a game and stay inside, they were using cards. They know cards way better than you or I ever will. Okay, so some things you just need to know. You need to know that a standard deck of cards has 52 cards in the deck. There's 52 cards in that deck, period, dot. There are 4 suits, and the suits are diamonds, hearts, my hearts aren't that good, spades, my spades aren't that good either, or clubs. Okay, and you'll notice that I drew them specifically red and black, and that's because on the cards, they are red and black. And that's important because you need to know which ones are which, okay? The other thing you need to know is that there are 13 cards in suit. So there are 13 spades, there are 13 clubs, 13 diamonds, and 13 hearts, just the way it's going to go. All right. So now that we have some general knowledge about that, if I was to ask you how many red cards are in a deck of cards, well, you would need to think, what's red? Diamonds and hearts are red. So 13 plus 13 would be 26. Those are the type of questions they're going to just assume you know the answer to. Okay. So let's go forward with this. What is the probability of picking a heart from a standard deck of cards which has 13 cards in each of the 4 suits? Depends on how your brain works. There are 52 cards in the deck. So my total possibilities is 52. How many hearts are in the deck? There are 13 cards in each suit, so there are 13 hearts. And then you're going to go on ahead and divide and reduce. And now remember, if you don't quite remember what goes where, just draw your ice cream cone. And then we'll do the math. Ice cream goes on the inside, 13. The cone goes on the outside, 52. How many times 52 go into 13? It doesn't. Add our 0 and decimal. So decimals and 0. 52 goes into 132 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract. Beg, borrow, and steal. 6 and 2. Need another 0. Bring it down. 260. Let's go with 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus that 1 is 26. Boom. So 0.25. Now remember, I've got to divide by 100 again. So that's moving that decimal point over 25%. The other way you can look at this, how many total suits are there? 4 suits. How many of those suits are hearts? 1. 1 over 4. What's another name for 1 over 4? A quarter. How much is a quarter worth? 25 cents. 25 cents, 25%. And I did have a couple students that made that leap just in their head. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. I like the way you think. Now the last one, number 3. What is the probability of rolling a number greater than 4 on a standard number cube? Okay, so we're back up here at this number cube, right? How many possible ways can a dice fall? It can fall 6 different ways. What is the probability of rolling a number greater than 4 on the number cube? Well, let's look at this. What are the ways that a number cube can land? It can land on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I need a number greater than 4. 1 is not 2, no, no, no. 5. 5 is, and 6 is. How many numbers do I have greater than 4? 2. So 2 out of 6. Okay? 2 out of 6, I can either recognize that that is 1/3, or I can do the division. Either way, I've got to do the division. Now, this is one of those ones that I've told you before. You really should memorize some of these fractions to decimals to percents, because it's just going to save you so much time later. This is one of those. So let's figure this out. 3 divided by 1. 3 does not go into 1, so I'm going to put a 0. I'm not stuck. I just add a decimal point, and then I can add the zeros after that decimal point all I want. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract 1. Add a 0, bring it down. 10, 3 into 3, 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, bring it down. Add a 0. 10. Wait a minute, there's a pattern here. I need to put a repeating line. Okay, but now remember, I've got to move my decimal point. Okay, so remember to use the repeated number when you're moving your decimal point. This is not going to wind up being 30. It is 33.3. Use your repeating line, percent. And that is the accurate answer. So when you're finding probability, remember to go back and you want to count up the total possible ways something could happen, and then how many times it's true on top of it. So some of you may realize this, but if you're in my class and you mention something about the wheel of misfortune, which is my spinny wheel that selects your name, it's a fair spinner. But if you happen to mention somebody's name's not on it, or you snitch somebody out, sometimes your name gets on there 150 times. I believe today it was 500 out of 1100 was one young man's odds of getting selected, and he wound up getting selected to answer the question like 8 times in a row. Anyway, a lot of having fun. Probability is a really cool way to predict how likely something is to happen. Watch the news. Look at the weather forecast. Start following the probability of that, figuring it out. Or play some probability games. You might be surprised where you can find dice to just roll and see what comes up. So, hope this helps. Don't forget, click like, subscribe, hit the notification button. I'll see you in class tomorrow.